A place where history is rich.
This sport is 5,000 years old.
Really?
One of the oldest sports in the world.
But its culture is richer.
Look at the women
peering over the wall. They gave birth to those boys, and they can't engage.
Participate.
Tel Aviv is like one of the most liberal places in the world.
I would not have known that. You always think of Israel as a very heavy, religious-driven culture.
There are two main groups, the Orthodox and the very Orthodox. The country is highly, highly polarized.
And yet, within this tiny country, big things are happening.
I was the first female to start a VC in Israel.
This all is about the child.
How many people can actually put a robot at the tip of your finger?
This is my first.
Next step, complete autonomy. This can change the way cancer is treated.
We are the first ever robotic system that is hands-free.
And that's what this season of True Future is looking to explore.
And now joining us from Florida is Joe from TrueFuture TV. Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Joe, why did you choose to film season 4 here in Israel, of all places?
Sure. So True Future is a docuseries about people, places, and tech, and especially as it relates to the med tech, health tech world. So pound for pound, Israel has continued to be one of the most innovative nations in the world as far as investment from a GDP perspective. And we've traveled the world, UK, Middle East, EU, Europe, Germany, the US. And we've got so many friends and sort of peers over in Israel that it was just a go-to nation because they have turned out technology time and time again, whether it's health tech, med tech, Waze, whatever it is, it's software tech related, and why not go to the epicenter of the world?
So just how does the Israeli startup scene compare to the rest of the world?
Well, I think it sets up incredibly well because culturally it's a country and a people that usually just take on massive technological challenges. And they also give themselves permission to fail. And there's never a scarlet letter on that. So when you tie those two things together, you start to get orders of magnitude in technologies that get birthed out of that. You know, if we talk about med tech, it's the earliest driver of robotics, stents that go in people's hearts, pill cams that now all these technologies are owned by billion-dollar companies. And on the non-med tech side, you've got things like Waze or Mobileye. So I think it's driven by the culture. I think it's driven by the mentality of a society that requires people to go into the military. The influence of aerospace and defense investing over the decades has really trickled into the medical, consumer, and technological side of the business.
And Joe, what really wowed you when you were here?
Well, season 4 was fun for me because I've been to Israel many times. And I think what always continues to wow me with Israel on every visit is the spirit of the country. And, I admire it as a technological, high-tech appetite, the ability to self-promote, but the ability to support each other. That's the thing that hits me is if you're in Israel, so here's a comparator. If you're in Israel and you have an idea and that venture capitalist doesn't think that idea fits their model, they'll immediately refer you down the road to another venture capitalist happily. You do that in the Silicon Valley in the US, you go into a VC, a venture capitalist, and they see the tech, but it doesn't fit them. They will not refer you to another sort of VC in order to look for investment. So it always strikes me as incredibly comforting the way that the culture and the tech culture support each other.
And tell us a bit about your story. What's your background in and what made you want to start TrueFuture TV?
So I'm an engineer, grew up in New York, spent a few years in engineering. Subsequently, after I left engineering, I started a search firm, a headhunting company that focused specifically on medtech. We have grown that over the last 3 decades to the top search firm in the world. And we primarily work with super high-tech companies that are solving problems around healthcare and medtech. So we continue to have unbelievable relationships with venture capital people, with startup people, and of course, with Israel being startup nation, we pursued that tech there for this season 4, but we wanted to share the stories of the people, places, and technology around the world and create heroes around scientists and create heroes around people who are making a difference in the healthcare continuum. And so we've been compared to Anthony Bourdain in Parts Unknown, only instead of food, we're traveling the world, talking to people, and celebrating technologies that are saving and extending lives. And that's a mission driven by us. And I have a great team. And season 4, we're incredibly proud of.
And Joe, finally, tell people where they can go if they want to watch your program.
It's TrueFuture.tv website. It's got all 4 seasons on it. I think today we are releasing episode 2 of season 4. Every other week, there'll be an episode out. So it's an on-demand type thing after that. And then in between weeks, we have a product called The Cutting Room Floor, which are exactly that. The pieces that didn't make it into the series that we feel are just as fun, just as intimate, and explore tech respectfully just as much as the main episodes.
Joe Mullings, host of TrueFuture TV, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Be well.